Hello.
Hey, Michaela, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
We're doing well. Thanks
That's
for having me
amazing.
on today.
Thank you for being our first guest for our episode of the Check-In. How are you doing today? Doing well?
We're doing well.
That's
It's
good. That is
like
good.
everyone else, just muddling our world through this virtual online education world.
Right. What is your quarantine routine? How are you staying busy during this time?
Well, I think a buddy of mine said, there are really two types of people in this time that almost have way less to do or way more to do.
Right.
And my day job is down the street from St. Mary's, down the street from NC State at St. Mary's School, where I'm the dean of students. And just like your professors up at State, we've had to put our whole education all online, student life all online. So obviously, we've been pretty busy with it, but it's gone well. So
you guys are adjusting well to the changes? Any slip ups? Like, has it been difficult to kind of transition from regular to online?
I think the biggest thing is, we're a small school and we thrive on connectivity and making sure our students are known. And so much of that is in person, and how to make sure, it feels personal in this online world is something we've had to do a lot of work at. But we have a great dean of teaching and learning who really put a good academic program on. And the student life team has done a great job from putting things like school elections online to we have our move up assembly. So it's been great to see it come together. It's been a lot of work, but a lot of people worked hard on it. But that doesn't mean we aren't looking forward to brick and mortar sometime soon.
Right. It's definitely well, in my personal experience of being a student, I've never had any online classes before. So now senior year, I'm like, everything's online. It's been a little bit overwhelming at first, but I'm definitely getting the hang of it. And I condemn all teachers, all professors for their hard work of, staying on top of things and be able to adjust so quickly. So thank you for that. And I'm sure your students at St. Mary's are even more than thankful for that as well.
Well, they've been troopers in that adjustment too. And I think with you being a senior, that's the other big thing too.
Yeah.
Making sure we honor our seniors. We're an old school filled with a lot of tradition, and we want to make sure, and this has been a particularly great class. It's my first one that's come through 4 years. So we want to make sure we honor them well too.
That's amazing. That's awesome. So I know you have 2 daughters. Are they showing any signs of hockey interest so far?
Oh, they're big time players.
Awesome. That's what.
Oh yeah, they they're 7 and about to be 10. My oldest girl, she plays on the junior Canes U10 team, and my youngest daughter is part of the Hurricanes House League. They they play a ton. We've actually, even this past weekend, we took a little roller hockey adventure up on the campus up through State.
Wow.
They like to zip on down all the hills and pathways in front of the engineering building.
Yes, I know they had a blast.
Then we ventured over by Tally and up into the parking deck. That's a pretty good place for roller hockey. So yeah, they're hockey fanatics too.
That is awesome. And I know that NC State hockey is not your first time coaching. As you used to be the head girls ice hockey coach at Worcester Academy, responsible for the creation of the first girls varsity hockey team. That is amazing. So why is it so important for women representation in not only the game of hockey, but in all sports as well?
Yeah, this is obviously I work at an all-girls school, right?
Yeah.
So it's personally on, and I have 2 daughters, so it's personal on a lot of levels. But I think, one of the things is that I remember when I first coached a girls hockey camp, and the girls were great, but they were definitely treated as the other and treated, very much put out on the margins of where hockey was. And people respond to being in the margins in any number of ways, sometimes positive, sometimes negative. So and this is long before I obviously had daughters. We're talking 2000, 2001.
Oh, wow.
So I had no idea what the world would be in store for me. But it was definitely a sense of role model, that they can do this, that they need role models to grow up with. They need to be able to see truly, we've always said as a society, you can be anything you want to be, but we as adults have to clear that path to really show our children that they can be anything that they want to be, that those opportunities truly exist. I frankly wish we had more women's coaches, so women could be coaching girls and have that role modeling.
Mm-hmm.
But the game is still young, right? The game is
Right.
still young, and it's young in the Raleigh area. So, developing those coaches, you look at Alyssa Gagliardi, who actually, she played up at Cornell and has been on some U.S. national teams. So we actually, at Colleen Murphy, we have another pro player that plays in the NWHL. So we have some role modeling that start, and very good ones that's starting in Raleigh.
Mm-hmm.
But first, you got to pave the way for opportunities, develop those role models.
Right.
So I'm really excited that the women's Icepack hit the ice this year, and looking forward to where that one goes.
Yes, I love it. And shout out to you for being an awesome girl dad. I know your girls are so thankful to have a coach as their dad. Like, that's a blessing. That's amazing. And you also, we already mentioned you have a long history of working in the education system. So how do you think, from working those years in prep schools, how has that equipped you to prepare for this role as head coach?
Well, I think the first thing is I've had a lot of great mentors as coaches.
Mm-hmm.
And I really look back to my time at Tilton School, where I worked with a gentleman by the name of Pat Norton. Pat's now the head coach of Tufts University, which is an NCAA Division III program. But Pat had been an assistant coach with UVM and Northeastern's Hockey East schools, in NCAA Division I, had been at Norwich, which is probably arguably still the premier NCAA Division III school. So mentoring is really important. I've had some great mentors along the way, including Mike Gazzillo, and an introduction to the club scene. I've been fortunate enough to be able to be in really good situations where I've either coached at a camp or like with the USA Hockey, some national development camps, where to be able to put a network together of people to call upon and ask, hey, what are you thinking about this? Or do you have a good drill here? We're a little bit of rut this way. So I think one thing is building that network of coaches to call upon, great mentoring across the board. And again, from Gazzillo to Norton. When I was at Worcester Academy, one of the guy that actually took over the girls program when I left, Kevin Zivkak, he had actually been the men's coach at Assumption College, which is a D3, well, D2 overall, but D3 for hockey. And again, so just that mentoring along the way. And, New England prep school hockey, especially back at those stages, was a really high level. Most of our kids were going on and playing to college. So, the leveling of being able to pick up the game intelligence is pretty close.
That's awesome. And networking is key, clearly. Building that close-knit network, and it kind of just like that mentorship really equipped you for your role. So I think that's amazing, and something that everyone should really hold on to in any career path. So that's great. What originally attracted you to NC State hockey program? And at what moment did you realize, yep, this is the place for me?
Well, it's kind of funny. I think, that could be a really long answer, a really short answer. The first off is, when we moved to Raleigh in the summer of 2016, we're from New York, New England, and those aren't necessarily college sports areas. But the understanding was you have to adopt, a college team down here pretty quickly, either Duke, NC State, or UNC.
Oh, yeah.
And being that we lived a few blocks south of the bell tower, I think that was a pretty easy choice, and going with NC State. And I also think, growing up, the last name Healy being Irish, but we have some Italian heritage. And when where I grew up in New York, we knew who Jim Valvano was. And so, the Italian boy going down to Tobacco Road and making good. So that was, so those leanings put in place towards State for sure. And then, so you mix into that. And, from there, it's really kind of a funny story how this all happened, how my involvement is. I was actually playing in a men's soccer league down here, and went to the soccer league had a night up for NCFC, and ended up sitting next to a guy with the name Emil Hartman. And Emil, who works for the Canes at the time, was part-time, and we just struck up a conversation. And he's from Vermont, and I'd coached some kids at Tilton from his area, and told us about the first goal program, and we signed up for the rink that was closest to our house, which is Icepack. And Emil basically said, hey, we need as many volunteers as you can get. And he's right, because it's a bit like, imagine 50 4 to 8-year-olds had never been out on the ice before.
Oh yeah.
So herding cats is way easier. So anyway, Mike Gazzillo was running that session and just struck up a conversation there. Mike really likes to have people come out to tryouts who don't know the players, so it really can be a blind tryout. Went out to that, just kind of kept coming back and got more and more part of the team, and that was 3 years ago. And then Jeff Wing, who was the D assistant then, he was moving on at the end of the year, and a good guy and is doing a lot with the Sled Hockey Association. Kind of took over his role at the end of the bench and just kind of grew from there. As far as when did I know that I thought this would be a long-term stick with NC State, I think really some of the first games. NC State has such great school spirit. When you go to the PNC game, there are no other club teams that are drawing 4,000 to 6,000 people on a Monday night for a club hockey game.
Oh yeah.
And you go to the games at Icepack, and again, the school spirit, the following that we have, it's really unparalleled. And the players themselves are of high character. We talk about First Goal and how they give up their summer nights to go out and do it. We have kids going out reading at local elementary schools. So, the fact that they're up, great ambassadors of the game in NC State off the ice, that helped make the decision too.
That's amazing. I could definitely say Pack Nation we're strong, and
yeah, absolutely
make our voices
love
heard.
it.
I remember filming your hockey games over the seasons. I've been with PackTV for 3 years. I just could not believe how many people would show up to the game. It was just crazy. I'm like, this is amazing. Like, I love that connection that the players have with their fans. I just love it. It's great to watch.
And that's why a lot of we have players that are choosing to go to NC State. One, because they know they can get a great education. And two, they're playing in front of bigger crowds than if they went to an NCAA Division III school. Their games being cast in the support by, like PackTV. And so they're getting a better experience than they would at a lot of smaller NCAA schools for sure.
Mm-hmm. I completely agree. Completely. Next, after 4 years of being with Icepack, would you say your coaching style has changed from when you first started to now? Or is it kind of been the same?
I don't know. I don't know if I would say my coaching style's changed. My role certainly changed. My first year I was just like, almost another guy on the ice pushing pucks. And the one thing that Coach Gazzillo does is he really Mike wants to make sure his assistants have a lot of responsibilities to grow. So I don't know. My coaching style has changed because it's relationship driven. It's making connections with players, knowing what makes players tick and respond, knowing what they're, where they need to feel respected to perform. So I don't know if that has changed as much. I would say the bigger growth is just learning the club hockey landscape, because it is different, and I hadn't been part of that before. And it's a great landscape. And, I tell a lot of my my former colleagues from New England who are in the secondary school level, you need to be having your kids look in the ACHA direction more, instead of chasing dreams, playing at lower levels of juniors that might not turn out. But I would say that's the biggest thing, learning the club hockey landscape, the ACHA landscape, and going to nationals last year helped with that. Made a lot of contacts. You talk about networking, and that's how we're able to get to know the UNH coach, and they're coming in next year, expanding it, building a relationship with Cincinnati, who we're going to add on the schedule in the future. So those things have been the biggest change the last couple of years.
Wow, that's amazing. How important is it to build that trust between you and your players? Like, what are some ways that you help develop that trust and have them, adjust to you being a new head coach?
Well, I think, this is a little bit of a different situation in that they know me. I've been with them for a couple of years. How you build the relationships, it's just little things. Like, when you're starting out at practice and maybe within a warm-up drill, you're just going down the line. Hey, how was your day? You take Nikita Anastradov. He's what he's majoring in math, I can't even pronounce, let alone try and figure out what he's doing in the classroom. But if you know that he's having a test and had a test that other day, ask him how it went. Those taking the time to get to know them and ask those little things and making sure they know that you care about them. Yeah. Take like Ryan Kinney, for example. Sam had been the captain before him, and Sam Benishevitz, great personality, but I was one of the happiest moments of that for me the whole year was seeing Ryan pick up that cup, not because he was picking up the cup for the Icepack. That's part of it, but knowing like, hey, he got his chance to shine as a captain too. So those things.
Yes, I completely agree with that. Now that you are a part of this legacy of being a head coach, do you feel any pressures from this new role, or is it kind of just you're going with the flow? How are you adjusting?
Well, I think right now, setting kind of some of the own goals. Is there pressure? Yeah, I mean, somewhat, because we've had a good season the last couple of years. But I don't know if I feel that as much about, because I know we have a good nucleus coming back. I have a lot of confidence in the group coming back. They're hungry. They want to perform. We just finished up all our one-on-one meetings for the year. So I think we're, on the same page. I would think the pressure comes from what some of, my goals are and vision for the program, and a big one is actually financial stability for the program. I think as a club program that has big aspirations, those come with bigger price tags. So working to get that stuff implemented. For example, we want to begin to roll out an annual fund, connect more with alums. Like when we did the Heritage Night this past year, that's another big one, how we had the guys from the first team come back. So I think that's where the pressure is. More is, there's pressure to perform and win, but to me, the greater pressure is making sure this program has long-term sustainability on the financial side.
Yeah, for sure. I guess increasing public outreach events, kind of just getting more people hands-on with the program.
Exactly. And again, that doesn't mean I don't want to diminish like the pressure and the drive to win. Anyone that works with me knows I'm as competitive person as there is. I see Joanne with the 3-peat for the ACC down there in the comments. For me, Riley Johnson mentioned in his year end that he wants 4 in 4 years. And so that drive is first and foremost, especially next year. Nationals is back up by Worcester, and it's actually, the home rank for when I was up at Worcester. So, I want to get back to that. So I don't know if that's as much about pressure as just drive to get to where we want to be. And we're all on the same page goal-wise, so that helps.
Oh yeah, for sure. Being alongside Coach Mike, the man behind the mustache, are there some coaching styles that you may have learned from him that you might continue on for the year?
I think for sure, there's some traditions within the week, absolutely within practices, how the team needs their moments. I think the big thing is for Mike is he definitely gives some latitude for the players to be themselves and kind of chart their own course when it comes to, say, pregame stuff, when it comes to making sure they're getting growth experiences out of it, being a club. So those things for sure, making sure to continue on. People ask a lot about changes. Mike and I were on the same page probably about, 99% of the time. So, so I don't know how much changes there. Him and I were on the same page in terms of team culture. And so, I think just the continuing on is, and Mike really wanted the team to be connected to the community. So making sure that's going on. Mike took connections with the Buckleys from the Stephen Russell tournament, Kelly Buckley and Brady Buckley, the parents of Stephen Russell, really serious. So the importance and value of those things to make sure those continue on.
That's wonderful. Who would you say is your biggest inspiration? Who kind of got you started with hockey, the game of hockey in the first place?
If you're going really far back, geez. I think you'd have to probably, definitely, we really had a sports loving household. My mom still plays tennis every day into her 70s. Well, not right now. But, so.
Well, that's still amazing. That's still great.
Yeah, she's itching to get back on the court. So, my father actually kicked around in some real low levels of the minors. So, my father was, played back when goalies didn't wear helmets. So we just had a pretty sports crazed family. In upstate New York, the ponds being frozen, getting out on those. But certainly my brother and his friends were probably big on getting me out on the ice.
Are you the youngest?
What?
Are you the youngest?
Oh, yeah, I was the youngest of two, and that's a lot of how I ended up being a goalie. If I wanted to play with them, I had to step in front of the net to get shot on, to take the the abuse of it. But, it was good for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. You have a game day playlist. What kind of music does the team play before they get out on the ice?
Uh, honestly, I am not the stuff that Nikita pumps through there in the game. There's stuff that I haven't. He's kind of he's a bit of a DJ in the club scene. So I think a lot of it's some house mix stuff.
All teams have that one DJ with the playlist and they just plug it up. So
absolutely. For me, I'm more in the celebratory songs afterwards, like when we went up to West Virginia 2 years ago, and and we own country roads at the end of the weekend. So things like that, when they're blasting that, to make sure they've heard Wagon Wheel and Raleigh, to know that we took over their building that weekend.
Yes, love it. Love it. What are your goals for this upcoming season? How are you going to accomplish these goals also?
I think the goal is simple. The guys were really, the guys love the fact that they won an ACC title.
Mm-hmm.
I think the 4 trophies is really big to them, being the first team to ever do it. I think that's great and that's important. But all of them were left hungry. All of them are not happy with how the last game ended.
Right.
Everyone wants to get back to nationals, and not because they're still at pace that they didn't put up the showing 2 years ago that they would have wanted to at nationals. So it's to get back to nationals and make a run at a national championship. I mean, that's the end goal. Only one team gets to lift that trophy at the end, and we want it to be that. But we want to take care of our own yard, our own house along the way, getting the regular season, the ACC, Stephen Russell. You talk about goals and programs. The way I look at us is a little bit like how Gonzaga is in basketball. Is they're always going to own their conference. They want to own their conference, but they still have to work to own it. They have some challenges out there. It's not a foregone conclusion. And then play a high-end outside of conference schedule. Next year we have Liberty home and home. We have UNH coming down for 2. Louisville's coming down. We're going up to Delaware for 2. So increasing that out-of-conference schedule, that will enable us to be better ready to compete when we get to regionals and nationals time.
Yeah, that's some good competition too. So
yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, definitely pumped up for that. When talking about great coaches in all sports, their main qualities that they look for in a player is if they're transformational versus transactional. What other qualities do you believe makes a great hockey player other than their skill on the ice?
They have to care, right? And if they don't care, and in a lot of ways, I can't make you care. You have to care before you get out there. You have to care to go out on that for our practices in the club program at 10:30, 10:45 at night. So the first thing is care. The second is an openness to get better, to look at things in different ways. You may have a coach that, put one system one way forever. Are they willing to be open and look at something else? Another thing is to advocate for themselves too. Hey, I'm not feeling this line combo. I'm struggling with this. And then finally, just a willingness to pay the price. And you look at guys like Eric Todd, they're willing to go in front of the net and pay the price. Colby Peterson, again, willing to pay the price and take whatever role you need him to be in. Colby played in one of the best junior leagues in the world, and he came in and he was, on our second line PK when he first got in, behind Parker and Todd. So pay the price, team first. And I think the other really big thing at state that isn't as big as other places is putting on the state jersey needs to mean something. And because it means a lot to those people that are coming to watch you at god-awful times, 10 o'clock at night, which, by the way, our home games next year will start around 7 o'clock. So those days are over.
Wow. That's good to know.
But, but that stuff needs to mean something too. Slip it on the red and black.
Yes, absolutely. What was your best memory from the past season?
Best memory, I think winning at Liberty was fun again.
Yes.
I think they put us at the same time on Sunday afternoon as when we played the regional game against them last year. And, they had spoken their pregame show in the week that they were looking for some measure of revenge. And our guys kept their mouths shut. And we actually lost the first game on that Friday to Denver. And took a lot from it and got better and better over the course of the weekend. And we were the only team to beat Liberty at home this year. So I think that's a great memory. Always winning the ACCHL title. Winston-Salem and the Annex, they do a great job with that tournament. Hats off to Mike Wally for getting it in that venue, our commissioner. It's a great tournament. That cup is a special cup. And when you see the guys that either are lifting it for the first time or for the last time that they're seniors, kind of seeing what that means on it. And then I think knowing, I knew at that moment that it was Mike's, last dance there, so to speak. So when he got around the 4 trophies too, and as he said, when records get broken, but when you do something that's a first, that's always a first. So knowing that he got to be part of and spearhead and lead us to a final first, if you will.
Oh my gosh, that was such a good game too. I just remember Liberty because I definitely was working that day, and I was just like, wow, the energy was just insane. So I could definitely see that being one of your top memories for sure. And I heard you mention soccer earlier in the interview. Is that maybe a sport that you have a huge interest in that fans may not know about? Or are there other sports that you may be?
Yeah, so I mean, I actually played. I was a goalkeeper in high school, and my high school actually didn't have football because they were small. I was one of these kids that played soccer up until football started, then went to football. Was a quarterback, and actually, in some ways, there's more of a football player in my town than a hockey player until about 8th grade. And then it was a chance to go off to prep school for a great educational opportunity, and that meant giving up football and went back to soccer. And then actually I was part of Fairfield University's soccer program through my sophomore year, JV level. I was the JV keeper, so let's not get carried away. Nothing special whatsoever. Soccer is a game I don't know if I would say I followed as much on the pro level or the passions there, but I love coaching it. And that's a place I've had some great coaching mentors too. When I was at Worcester Academy, I had a guy by the name of James Proctor who played pro in England and was a great mentor, and a guy then at Tilton, a guy by the name of Scott Ruggles. Again, was another great coaching mentor and team dynamics. So there's something about being in New England on a fall day in the pitch, or a late fall day down here over on campus with those, it's a special sport that way. But certainly and again, I love the thrill of whether it's stopping a puck or stopping a one-on-one with a ball. It's just, to play that, it's a good feeling.
Yes, that's wonderful how you got to incorporate those past sports, your participation in those, to now being a hockey head coach. That's awesome. That's amazing. That's also being transformational as well. And thank you for stopping by for the check-in. That's it for the interview. Thank you so much. I wish you the best for this upcoming season.
Michaela, I wish you the best as your senior year.
Thank you very much. And also, I wish you the best for the start of your legacy as being head coach for the Icepack. And thank you for being our first guest also.
Oh, my pleasure. And hey, anything we can do for you or for PackTV, just let us know. And just honored to be the first guest.
Thank you. Awesome. Stay in touch. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Take care. Go Pack.
Go Pack.